All right, team. Let's talk about shutting down those high-flying 7v7 passing offenses. You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones where the quarterbacks look like they're playing video games all day. But hey, we got the techniques, we got the tools to help you stop it. And I'm going to break it down in our first coverage, which is cover three. Cover three pattern match, though, to be exact. A Nick Saban styled offense. The first thing that you have to understand is that this is a cover three style defense, right? But as a corner, we three-step shuffle into a short game, and we try to keep everything underneath us if the route ends up going vertically. So if we're taking a look at number one going vertically, the corner has to run with that. If the corner or the outside number one runs a hitch route, our three-step shuffle should be to break on that route unless he reads the number two go vertical. Then he's supposed to stay on top of that. So if the 1 and 2 run double hitch, the nickel has to cover the 2, the corner has to cover the 1. Very important, right? What the safety is doing is the safety is reading from 2 to 1 on the weak side and paying attention to the number 3 on the strong side, because his responsibility is to play the zone that's underneath the high safety, which is the opposite safety playing over the top of the defense. So the middle linebacker, who's shading himself to the strong side, right, to the trip side, has to play inside leverage, but become the wall defender and play and work away from the safety, which drops down. So if the safety from the weak side is dropping down to play the hole, the middle linebacker has to work and help everything adjacent to him, which is towards the strong side. The strong side nickel is doing exactly what the weak side nickel is doing. He's reading from 2 to 1 and making sure that he protects the seam by rerouting the seam and carrying it all the way up to 10 yards before he gets out to find the number 1, right? If number 1 runs a hitch and number 2 runs a seam, the corner should be over the top to protect the seam after the reroute from the nickel, while the nickel flies out to cover the number 1. So what we're focused on is playing a zone, but there's some very important factors within playing this zone because eventually it turns into man. So number one factor is drop to an area and reroute the wide receiver. Number two is match the pattern, match the route, match the concepts in your zone with integrity to your zone. And number three is to break on the ball. Be very, very stingy with breaking on the ball and making sure that you're not covering grass. Now, as we look to the right side of the film, we see the rules and the dividers, right? The corner plays a divider role, which technically means if the wide receiver lines up on the numbers, the divider rule is where the corner is trying to protect any in-breaking routes that are shallow or lower than where he can receive help from the strong safety. So if number one just runs strictly though across the field, the corner does not chase. He just calls in and passes him off to one of the adjacent linebackers, whether that be the middle linebacker or the far side linebacker to the strong side, right? If that guy runs vertical, he's your guy at corner. If that guy runs a dig, he's your guy on that dig route, right? You got to respect the fact that this concept of cover three means that you at times, once you realize how far the guy is traveling, that you ultimately turn this into a man coverage based on your reads from 1 to 2 at corner. And in taking a look at the free safety or the strong safety, though, to the strong side of the field, if your responsibility is to play the deep middle, you have 17.7 yards to cover, and that is the entire middle of the field. And that's why that section is colored though in green, right? That's your hold or responsibility to cover all that part of the field. And the corner's job is to force routes either into your area through post, Not necessarily digs, because there's a safety that's playing down. So you got to understand that anything deep is your responsibility to play. So in understanding 7v7, we can talk about two things that are pretty standard, right? Um, the defense is either playing middle of the field open, or the defense is playing middle of the field closed. So what we're talking about now is we are talking about middle of the field closed defense, which is a cover three, which means one safety though plays over the top of the defense. So we're going to show you some clips on how we stop guys from getting open in our defense, right? So we're going to play this cloud cover three defense, right? And I believe this safety is going to be down to play the middle of the field. And remember, whoever comes in his zone, he should be chasing. So what should happen is that that guy that ended up in that zone should have been responsible for that defensive back, or that the safety from the weak side should be taking the top of the defense. But he realized he's not threatened in his zone and almost made a play on the ball. So we got to understand, right, that 17.7 yards, which is hash to hash, the divider line, which is here, right? And we understand that we're paying 3 with a helped extra fourth man that moves down. Middle linebacker, outside linebacker, outside linebacker, and we're not covering grass. So we're going to take a look at that concept again, and what we can realize in this concept is that this linebacker, realizing that this guy is rolling down, can instantly stay in this window right here and protect that throw, and probably end up though with an interception if he does his job. In our next clip, we have the strong safety, or the strong side safety, rolling down to play in the window. And what we should have is the middle linebacker helping to the weak side in this hole and creating some leverage. So when this safety sees this guy attacking vertical, we should hopefully get a reroute. We should get a reduced split. The corner can either walk down in this area, open and shuffle and play a bell concept. But what he should be doing is he should be much tighter to the wide receiver, playing here and keeping his eyes on anything that leaks out the backfield into his zone. What we don't do a good job of is we don't get a reroute on the number 2, like we originally talked about in the beginning of the video. That reroute is crucial to protecting those seams. So because there's no reroute, we have a man technically flying over, but the corner should be right on top of that, and he should be responsible for taking that away. Right, our quarterback's eyes are here, right, and this safety should be involved right in that play because he has no vertical threat, right? This middle guy is taking himself across the field, so our triangle should be in between these 3 guys, taking away this throw right down the middle. But it's important that our nickel gets the reroute to slow that concept down. In our last and final clips, we see a team that realizes that we're playing a cover 3 man or cover 3 match coverage, and they end up running 5 verts. 5 verts is a good play in 7v7, especially when your guys aren't doing their job and rerouting the guys that are in front of them. So what we should end up seeing is we should see a reroute by all three guys here. And there's not a single one. So for this defense though to work, is for us to slow down the interior three and make their pass slower towards our three high shell. We'll take a look at that one more time. If we can get a reroute here, and instead of looking at the quarterback, he takes his eyes out to number one and realizes that there's no shallow concept, nothing underneath. He can continuously run with that guy. We got a guy that ends up running past. He has good eyes. He checks the outside, but there's no reroute. We have a middle linebacker who's staring at the quarterback and doesn't get a reroute though from here. So our main focus though for this defense is the reroutes from the interior three to make sure that we slow down the defense, right? We have a man turn on the outside, which is where, based on the split, the initial split, he could be standing on the outside because the divider line is here. So he doesn't have to take an inside leverage in a 7-by-1. He can now stand on the divider line and squeeze that outside, that wide receiver into the safety's help. And that's how we play our cover 3 pattern match. I'm Coach Mo, and I'm signing off.